world this week. Before we get too far into it, be sure to check out our YouTube channel at TWC Pod. Check out our Facebook page, Instagram. You could even catch us on TikTok and get all the up-to-date content about the Olympics, basketball, WWE, MLB, and more. Now, Olympic basketball and the Olympics in general are kicking into high gear coming up this weekend. The Olympics officially start tomorrow. James set to be the flag bearer for Team USA, which is a big deal because this is the first time Team USA men's basketball has ever had a flag bearer before. And for those of you who don't know, the flag bearer is essentially the person who carries the American flag when every Team USA sport walks out together at the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games. And given all the superstars that have played for Team USA basketball in the past, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, just to name a few, it's surprising it's never been given to one of them before. And kudos to LeBron for getting to be the first person to do it after a career well played. He's going to go down as one of the most decorated Olympians in Team USA history as far as basketball is concerned. I believe he is the gold medalist on 2018, the Dream Team. He was there in 2012. I don't believe he played in 2016 or 2020. So if LeBron wins this, I think this would be his third gold medal. There are 3 games coming up with Team USA in the next couple days. They play Serbia on Sunday, South Sudan on Tuesday, and Puerto Rico next Friday. So we'll have the Serbia and the South Sudan games to talk about. Next time we're together, we'll have to wait until 2 weeks from now to break down Puerto Rico. But I'm really excited to see how Team USA does against Serbia. That'll be a really good test for them. The Serbian national team has 4 NBA players. They've got Nikola Jokic, who obviously is arguably the best player in the league. Worst case scenario, he's like the 3rd best player in the league. They've got Bogdan Bogdanovic, who plays for the Hawks, and he's a really solid rotation player for them. They've got Nikola Jovic, who plays for the Heat, and Vasilije Micic, who plays for the Hornets. So Joker and Bogdan are really the only 2 players I would think Team USA has to be very concerned about. But what do I know, given how Team USA has played in their 3 exhibition games? They managed to make it through 3 exhibitions without losing. However, they were frighteningly close in most of them, and they just haven't played like a team that's firing on all cylinders to this point, and they definitely don't play like a team that's going to cakewalk their way to the gold. It's kind of been the running story the last few Olympics about how Team USA basketball is no longer the dominant force that it used to be. I mean, we won the bronze in the FIBA World Cup last year. So a lot of people, because in the FIBA World Cup, Team USA didn't have the LeBron Jameses and the Steph Currys and the Kevin Durant's of the world. People weren't that concerned. And same thing with last Olympics. Team USA got the gold, but there weren't very many superstars on that team. Like LeBron wasn't there, Steph, KD. None of those guys showed up. And people always just kind of assumed that whenever those guys show up, Team USA will be fine and we have nothing to worry about. Well, those guys are on the team right now, and there's a lot of people worrying because we only beat South Sudan in an exhibition game by 1 point. And LeBron, who is 4 years old, over 40 years old, was the best player in that game, which is a great accomplishment for LeBron, but that doesn't say great things about the state of Team USA basketball. When you get your squad together full of people like Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Joel Embiid, Drew Holiday, like mid-20s to early 30s guys, and the old dinosaur is kicking all their butts. I mean, in that game against South Sudan last week, Team USA shooting was atrocious. I mean, just rattle off some stats. Steph Curry was 4 for 11. Anthony Edwards was 4 for 11. Anthony Davis was 4 for 12. Jason Tatum was 3 out of 8. Like, all those names right there should be the leaders of this team, and they all just played horrible. LeBron had 23 points, and he was the only person to score more than 15, except for Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis, like I just said, had a horrible shooting night. So Team USA just really has to get into gear and find their playing rhythm. I didn't watch the game, so I can't decipher what it was that had them out of a funk. But generally, when you have these Avengers type Olympic teams come together, it's an issue with passing the ball around and team chemistry. You know, all these great players are used to having control of the ball. Some of them aren't that great at playing off ball. So hopefully, the more they practice, the more they do a group of it, and we'll see if that can help things. But they can't have any more bad shooting performances like that and expect to win the gold. And that South Sudan team doesn't have a whole lot of talent on it. So the best player, at least in that game against Team USA, was a guy named Marial Shayok, who had 24 points. And I looked up his stats in his general league, and he didn't average more than like 10 points a game in his league. This guy named Carlik Jones had 15, 11, and 11. And his JT Thor is the only player on that team who's in the NBA. The rest play in Europe. And it's not like they're big, huge name superstar types of Europe or Africa or Asia or wherever their league that they play in is. It's just that their teams have better chemistry because they are just used to playing together. They're not as I think those national teams overseas spend a lot more time year-round playing together because the lineup for Team USA always changes between the FIBA lineup versus the Olympic lineup, and even from Olympics to Olympics, it's really different. Even the Pan American game lineup. Whereas I think for teams like South Sudan and Serbia and Puerto Rico, their lineups on who's on their national team is pretty set until one of the players on the team is no longer able to play at that level anymore, then they switch them out. So it's more consistent, and once they get into that group of playing together, they maintain it, whereas Team USA is always in flux. So that's my analysis on why Team USA has been struggling. Puerto Rico, they've only got one NBA player, Jose Alvarado, who averages 7.1 points a game, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds. And Tremont Waters, who doesn't play in the NBA, but I thought it was notable that he averaged 15 points a game at LSU in the 2017-18 and 2018-19 seasons, and he's currently playing in Asia. So, I mean, Team USA, based on NBA-level talent and assuming that means that they're the best players, Serbia should be their biggest problem of the next week. So if they can get past Serbia, hopefully they can get past the other two. I hope that they come out with a vengeance against South Sudan and try to wipe the bad taste out of the mouths of all the people that watched that game last week. And I really hope the young players on Team USA can step up, because this is LeBron's last Olympics. Like, he shouldn't have to be the best player. He's had to be the best player on the Lakers for the last 4 years. He did not expect that when he signed up, and he shouldn't have to be the best player on the Lakers when Anthony Davis is there. I would really not sympathize with him, but like, it would be even tougher if he had to again be the best player on Team USA when he's on there with all sorts of all decade caliber players. Kevin Durant was recently injured, had half train or something of that effect. He was back in practice on Monday, so hopefully he's good to go and he can stay healthy for the remainder of the Olympics. KD and Steph having some prior chemistry, like, I would imagine that would help Team USA a little bit. We talked about it. Like, they got shooters on Team USA. It's just the shots weren't falling. So hopefully they can get it going. One thing, too, that stuck out to me was the lack of assists on Team USA. LeBron had 6, and Derek White had 5. And that was pretty much the only notable assist numbers throughout that entire game for Team USA. LeBron makes sense. He's always a triple threat. 23-6 was his stat line. That's pretty much what you expect out of LeBron. Joel Embiid had 14, 7, and 3, which is good numbers for him. But I just think if they could get the ball flowing, get a natural rhythm, get some pass-first players, somebody like Drew Holiday or Derek White. And honestly, I would love to see Devin Booker take a step back and work on his passing game a little bit. Because on a team with Joel Embiid and Jason Tatum and players like that, Devin Booker shouldn't have to be a 25-plus points a game scorer like he is on the Suns. I think it'd be good practice for him because the passing aspect of his game is probably the weakest part in terms of offense. And I would also love it if, like Kobe in 2008, very famously, only focused on defense. And so if some of these more offensive-minded players took this Olympics as an opportunity to hone in their defensive skills, it would only help them round out their game. Have somebody like a Tyrese Halliburton just really D up the best wing player on the opposing team. I'd see it. Now, this is one area of Team USA that I'm not going to get invested as we go into Olympics, and hopefully we have some good stuff to talk about, and that's Team USA Boxing. Now, USA Boxing hasn't won a gold medal, at least in the men's division, since 2004, which is 20 years ago, and it's really not all that crazy. I'm surprised Deontay Wilder never did Olympic boxing, but I also know that he got into boxing relatively later in life, so maybe he just went straight to the pros. I guess that's how he did it. But there are 4 Team USA Boxing people to look out for in this. Joshua Edwards is a 6'3" super heavyweight from Houston, and he won the gold medal in the 2023 Pan American Games. He's the first super heavyweight from Houston to make the Olympics since George Foreman, so he's certainly got some big shoes to fill. I looked at some pictures of him and some videos of him fighting before the stream, and I haven't looked at what the other countries are offering, but he looks like he can go, and he's going to be the fighter of the 4 that I'm most looking forward to seeing how they perform in action. I know in boxing, the shorter guys have been really getting all the publicity and the following ever since Floyd Mayweather kind of changed the game and made that the fun thing to watch. But I've always been a big fan of the heavyweight. To me, like, I don't know, there's just something about being the world heavyweight champion in boxing that's just different than being the world welterweight or the featherweight champ or whatever it may be. But speaking of the featherweights, Jamal Harvey is 5'7", and he won the gold also for his weight class in the 2020 American Games and in the AIBA World Championship in 2021. So Jamal Harvey, from what I could gather when I was doing my research for this, is the person most favored to get the gold in his weight class. He is the only person, we'll just say this, that had a USA Today article about him. The rest of the media coverage on these guys has been disappointingly scarce, but that just once again shows the state of USA boxing. And maybe we can get some gold medals this go around, and there can be a resurgence and interest in it. Because the last time I can think about anybody discussing a Team USA boxing match, or at least one that is notable, was Floyd Mayweather in '96, just because that's the last time he lost. But Amari Jones is a welterweight who's won the silver medal in the 2021 AIBA World Championship. He's 5'11", and Roscoe Hill is a flyweight. He's 5'9", and he won the 2021 World Championship silver medal and bronze in the Pan American Games. So that's the Team USA boxing lineup. Should be relatively straightforward since there's only 4 dudes on Team USA Boxing America. So if you're into boxing, Joshua Edwards, Jamal Harvey, Amari Jones, and Roscoe Hill, look into them. Hopefully they do a good job and make us proud. Now, if you want to call it boxing, if you want to call it celebrity street fighting, I don't know what Jake Paul is classified in these days, but he had a fight last week against former UFC fighter Mike Perry. He won with a 6-round TKO, and his record is now 10-1. I think with a record of 10-1, it's about time Jake Paul fights an actual boxer in his prime. Now, he's got the Mike Tyson fight coming up. I believe that's scheduled for November because it got postponed after Mike Tyson got injured in training camp. I mean, I'm expecting Mike Tyson to wipe the floor with Jake Paul in that fight. I think everybody is. That being said, you can't take it for granted because Mike Tyson is like 58 years old. Boxing's a crazy sport because all it takes is one good lick to put you out. So Jake Paul, he's got I would say more than a puncher's chance, but he's certainly not the favorite in that Mike Tyson fight. But however it goes, I want to see Jake Paul fight somebody who's actually ranked like a top 25 fighter in whatever Jake Paul's weight class is. Just because I would love to know what his actual skill level in boxing is compared to a boxer. Because fighting all these UFC fighters, yes, they fight for a living, but doing UFC for years is completely different than specializing in boxing. And, I mean, some of the people that he's fought have been striking specialists in the UFC. But that is, once again, very different than preparing and training your entire life as a straight-up boxer. And that's the kind of talent I want to Jake Paul face off against because I really have no clue how he would fare. As much as people ridicule him, 10-1 is still a pretty impressive record considering he's fought former fighters. And now, like I just said, a UFC fighter is not the same thing as a boxer in a boxing match. But I'm not educated enough to tell you how big of a differential there is. So if Jake Paul could fight the 25th ranked fighter in his weight class and go the distance and make it competitive, I would actually be very surprised and very impressed. And I think it would make him look a lot more legitimate in the eyes of the average fight fan. That being said, I know why he doesn't do it, because there's no money in that. I mean, I would much rather watch Jake Paul fight Mike Tyson than to have him fight the 25th ranked guy in his Jake Paul's weight class. I couldn't even tell you who the 5th ranked welterweight is in the world right now, much less the 25th. So I mean, yeah, like from a purely economic standpoint, I get it. And Jake Paul, it's not like he's ever gonna be world champion one day. At least I don't think. I guess never say never. So like he's doing it for the money, and it is impressive what he's been able to do, because I'm sure the pay-per-view returns are nothing to sneeze at, to say the least. I mean, shoot, that girl who went viral, the Hot Tua girl, that's what they're calling her. She's making like $50,000 a week just getting paid to go to people's birthday parties and concerts and events. So Jake Paul boxing every couple months and making like 500,000 or millions of dollars or however much he makes a fight, like I don't blame him, but I would just love to see how he stacks up against actual boxers in boxing. Now, Canelo Alvarez has a fight coming up in September, I believe. It's against some guy named Brungia, who's not all that highly renowned in the boxing world. It's one of those things, I think, where he has to defend his title within a certain amount of days or else he loses it. And so it's just a tune-up fight. And I expect Canelo to cakewalk through it, but you never can be too confident, because sometimes it's those fights people get upset because they don't take it as seriously as they otherwise would. I mean, it's like when Tyson Fury got beat up by some random no-name guy when everybody was focusing on him fighting Anthony Joshua to unify the world titles, and then he lost the world title. So who knows how that fight will turn out. I mean, most people bet on Canelo, and generally speaking, if you bet on Canelo, that's probably a safe bet. But we'll have more coverage of that when the time comes. In the world of Major League Baseball, Dylan Cease threw a no-hitter today. He is a pitcher for the Padres. They won 3-0 against the Nationals. Struck out 9, walked 3, and he's a pretty good up-and-coming star, if you can even call him that. He's 28 years old. He's been in the league for about a decade now, but still, this is a second no-hitter in Padres history. So he's joining rarefied air for that franchise. He's 10-8 on the year, 3.5 ERA, 168 strikeouts. And when I was looking up stuff about him, because I never heard of him until today, I think he's from Milton, Georgia, so relatively local boy for anybody listening back home to this. So good for Dylan. Keep up the good work, unless you're playing the Braves, in which case I hope you have an off night. Now, if any of you tuned in last week, you might remember I was very annoyed that Paul Skeens' coach on the Pirates took him out in the 7th inning when he was in the middle of a no-hitter. It just didn't sit right with me, because if you're that close to a no-hitter, you let him go for it. But they took him out because they wanted to save his arm. Now, I was annoyed about it last week. Now I'm really annoyed about it, because he threw a complete game, or at least he threw a 9-inning game on Tuesday. He allowed 4 hits and had 8 strikeouts. Cardinals lost 2-1. But that just makes 0 sense as to why, if your whole thing last week when you took him out when he was in the midst of a no-hitter was that you wanted to save his arm and that he's young, and it just didn't make sense to let him go 9. Only to let him go 9 a week later, like, it just, I can't explain it. I really can't. Like, the way coaches approach pitching these days, in my view at least, is just so dumb. Like, I get statistics are important. They have to be a big part of sports. But to live and die by pitch counts is just dumb in general, But if you're going to do it, be consistent about it. Don't take the guy out when he's this close to a no-hitter and then let him go 9 in a losing effort. They were losing whenever he was in. Like, I just don't get it. Like, if you're going to let him use some of his arm juice out, like, you think you would let him do it when he's about to make history and not when he's already losing 2-1. But that's the logic of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and you could spend all night trying to decipher that. I don't think it makes any sense. But the fact that they didn't lose, Paul Skeens is doing great this season. 1.93 ERA, 97 strikeouts, 6-1 record too. So that was his first loss of the year. So, I mean, you gotta have your first loss at some point, and his came in a pretty impressive performance anyways. I mean, 8 strikeouts, that's solid. ESPN released their power rankings for the post-All-Star game week, and they have the Phillies number 1, which I think everybody who's been keeping up with baseball could guess. I mean, they've just been firing on all cylinders the last 2 years. They got the best record in baseball by far. They're my favorites to win the World Series. Bryce Harper has just been that dude, and they've just been playing really impressive. The Orioles are second, the Dodgers are third, the Yankees are fourth, and the Guardians are fifth. Now, the race between the Orioles and the Yankees for the AL East pennant is going to be probably the most fun thing to watch for the second half of the MLB season. Right now, the Orioles are up on the Yankees just because they have 3 less losses. But it's obviously not too late for the Yankees to make a comeback. I don't know when the next time the two play each other is, but that will be must-watch TV. One thing that I've always missed is baseball. I know they do the World Baseball Classic now, but there's just something about being an Olympic sport that I think adds an air of legitimacy to a sport. And I don't know, it just feels like more a part of the world stage. And I would just love it if they brought back Olympic baseball, but I understand why they don't, since the Olympics do always happen in the dead heat of the MLB season. But maybe one day they will bring back Olympic baseball for those of us who miss it. But that's pretty much all the sports news going on this week. It's been relatively slow. Hopefully, once the Olympics kick into gear, we'll have a lot more to cover. But that being said, I will see y'all next week.